Good afternoon on a beautiful day. It's actually above 60 degrees. My eyes are wide open. I'm a lot happier now. I think winter has, I hope, seen its last days in New Hampshire until next year.
Well, the question I have for you is, why are we inside right now when we should be outside?
That's what I've been asking for years, and they keep
It's
me in
spring,
this little
people in
room.
Manchester. We love it. It's beautiful out, and it's time to get outside and enjoy all that the beautiful city has to offer.
You got that right.
With Anthony.
We're going to have a good conversation today about art, and that shouldn't surprise anybody that this is my 9th year doing this show. I really enjoy it. I bring to the public, and I'm no Johnny Carson, but I bring to the public a lot of artists that need to be heard. Their work needs to be seen. A lot of these people don't belong to any groups. They're kind of soloists, I guess you would call them. But I've had some pretty good artists. I've had 2 international artists on this show, and but I like to stay local because there's a lot of talent, and especially I've got a good feeling about this year. I ran into Dan Bérubé last year, and Dan is heavily involved in the arts. He's got Jupiter Hall. He has entertained, I couldn't count the artists there. He has the space, he has the patience, and he needs a lot of that when he deals with artists, because we are kind of a strange group of people.
That's true.
We'll say different. We'll say different. But we're going to talk a little bit about art, public art. We're going to talk about art on the outside. We're going to talk about artists painting on the streets. We're going to talk about upcoming events at Jupiter Hall, what we hope to see in the city this year. And I just recently, in fact, I'm not sworn in yet, but I'll be an art commissioner here soon. And I'm going to be working with a whole group of people that I hope we can all focus together and get things done for the city. There's a lot of things that a lot of artists would like to see, and I'm hoping that there'll be a lot of people from the public to come in and sit at our hearings and give us suggestions on what you would like to see. And from there, I believe that we can have what I have wanted to see and used to see in Manchester is a glowing art, some kind of glowing art curriculum where artists are active, they're public, easy access to the artists, and artists have easy access to people. We're hoping for a lot of things, and I'm sure that somewhere along the line we're going to be seeing these in the future, and we're going to talk more about it as we go on. I would like to make an announcement here. A very good friend of mine, Cheryl Mitchell, died this past Saturday. She is famous for starting Litchfield Lane, and I was working for AmeriCorps Vista as a paid volunteer when I first met her in 2007, and I helped her build the group, and I introduced art to the group. It was essentially a neighborhood watch group, but it grew into a much bigger thing, which everybody I'm sure that has watched Channel 9, they talked about Litchfield Lane a lot. Of course, that was years ago. And the reason they talked about it was because the artists that I had working with me in these alleys, we had the children working with us. And the children, with their parents' permission, we would give them the brush and the paint and have them paint a certain section. And here it is 9 years later, and we haven't been tagged. We were on Chronicles. Police department have asked, what's the secret? None of these murals have been tagged, and to this day they're not tagged. My guess is that because we use children from the neighborhood, that immediate part of the neighborhood, Litchfield Lane is just north, the next alley, north of, I'm trying to think of the street now, Queen City Road over to Queen City. But anyway, the murals themselves are in good condition, and we had artists come in every year and touch them up. And from there, it just grew. We had people from the YMCA. We've had all kinds of school groups come in and participate in this, and it's very healthy. And through the years, we got neighbors that used to come out and watch us and take pictures. Well, anyway, that all wrapped up, and every year we'd go in and we'd either refurbish the murals that were already in existence, or we would have a new mural put up. I think last year we put up, 3. But this past Saturday, Cheryl, whose vision had come true with the neighborhood, she passed away. And I would like to give my condolences to her family and to all the artists that have been a part of this mural project. And sadly to say, John Mitchell, her husband, has decided that he's going to keep Eagle Eyes open. But as far as Litchfield Lane, he says at his age it's getting too much to do for him. He's getting in his mid-70s now, and after the death of his wife, he thinks that they're just about done with the murals. It's sad, but in a way I can understand it. But I look at it this way: there are plenty of alleys, and there's plenty of people who care. So
absolutely,
you know,
I mean, I think it's important to remember the history of it and
right.
its role in Manchester being, a city of murals, if you'd like to come along and believe in that, which I believe in it. Anthony believes in it, and there are a lot of people out there that believe in murals as symbolic to expression and a universal way of storytelling and bringing people of all diversities together in the city. So why not continue to do murals?
To me, once you do a mural, the very first mural I did was in 1995. It was St. Joe's Hospital, School of Nursing in Nashua. And I was intimidated, had no idea how I was going to start it. I was I wouldn't say confused, but I was kind of uptight, if I may use that word, because I wanted it to be perfect. And then I wanted it to be my first mural and a good mural. And thank God it turned out that way. I did I think it's 10 by 7 mural of Sister Youngville from Canada, who started the Grey Nuns. And then from the Grey Nuns being in Nashua at that time, they started a nursing school. So the whole mural was designed around her. They gave me an original photograph from 1890-something. And I covered it in plastic, and one day I'm holding it in front and I'm doing some sketching, and this nun came up real politely and she said, "Anthony, I'm going to trade you that photograph for a cup of coffee and a donut." And I said, "You got to be serious." She says, "This is the original photograph. We're going to make a copy. You can't have the original photograph." But anyway, to make a long story short, I had a good time. It was my first mural. I got a taste of it. I put my heart and soul into it, and it actually came out, in my estimation, my first one. Wow, it's fantastic. It's really nice. I got a lot of publicity over it, and it was years later I did some murals for the city, 10 years later before I got my next mural. But anyway, I don't want to talk too much as I usually do.
I think this is great because I was going to start interviewing you anyway.
There you go.
About the history of you. I mean, you bring a wealth of artistry and creativity to the city, and there's many people like you in this city that are still able to have their voices be heard and to be agents of change in a city that's focused on the future, to bring the past and present into the future, I think is a win for the city. And to not try to just cut ties with the past, but include that as we vision forward.
Right.
I think that in terms of murals, it's an incredible opportunity for us to share our stories together. And it's one of the most, probably, if you get the right resources together, one of the best ways to utilize existing resources.
Right.
Talent, paint, people who are willing to help sponsor that. There's a lot of opportunity coming up in the city in the years to come, the next couple of years, especially with, with Manchester Connects moving forward with renovating the Loop area,
right,
between the basically Commercial Street going up Granite Street, Elm Street, back down Stark and back to Commercial Street. Incredible opportunities for different placemaking for murals. And I'd love to see that happen. I certainly will help do my part as an individual to volunteer in that. But when you think about, the history of murals in the city, I think it's important to remember all aspects of it, and then what we can do, incorporating, kids and students in the process. I really believe in media arts education. There's so many schools out there who we can coordinate with to help create groups to be able to do this. So what a better way to do that and to incorporate artists with young people and with students who are studying art, whether it be at New Hampshire Institute of Art, Manchester Community College, even, we're a college town and there's a little bit of art at every school, including, graphics and whatnot at SNU. Wouldn't it be a great way to really, focus on that as something that's done? I think it's going to work best when we work together with local organizations that believe in this and, and individuals. So, I think that would be an amazing thing.
It's one of those things where, I remember when the talk came up years ago when I was doing murals downtown and there were other artists doing murals, and then Cat Alley, which I'd like to refurbish at some point in time. And now that I'm on the Art Commission, I've already put that on the table as something, because it's the paint integrity in Cat Alley. That's right downtown Manchester. Is really good. Mother Nature put some mold on there, so I'm going to be talking to some people at Sherwin-Williams and see what we can do about that mold, and without destroying the paint. And if we do, I'm going to try and get the artists to come back, and hopefully it'll be a minor project instead of some big thing where you have to redo the whole mural, because Cat Alley is so representational of people. There was one bag lady that came out of nowhere, and she did beautiful work. Wouldn't tell me who she was or where she was staying, but every morning she showed up. But it was such a vast array of people, and I would like to see that refurbished. And
I'd love to see a kind of like a glass ceiling, put a glass roof canopy to put in Cat Alley to make that a space that activities could happen, or pop-ups or whatever. I know that I'm sure that the Bookery, Liz Hitchcock, and would be for activities like this, and other people who believe in arts and building our community. But that's just an idea I always thought of it, because it's such a perfect space for doing something like that.
When we first did that, we had a big celebration. We had a guy that had a piano. One guy came and he had his horn. I can't remember what it was, a bugle or something. But anyway, between the two of them, it drew people. And then people would look at Cat Alley. And that's what people really need to do, is when they look at something like that, it should be open to them to be able to see the different diversity, and having a main theme of a cat, and to see how many different variations of cats out of an artist's mind. And it was just incredible. And 2 weeks ago, Deb Curtin, she was another artist involved in that. At that time, I was on the Art Commission, and it was kind of like an Art Commission project. It started out slow. It had actually started out the year before we actually completed it, which was 2011. But the artwork and the people that were involved were Manchester artists who have since gone to school in different states. But once in a while, I'll see these people, and like Dan said, it's on the table to get these projects going, and it's just a matter of time. Waving the flag of therapy as usual, because art is a therapy. There is no doubt about it, and I push it. And most of the artists that I know, in fact, Keith, how do you pronounce his last name?
Trahan. Keith
Trahan. I was going to have Keith on, but he'll
be on. Keith is actually asked to be on your show next week.
Next week,
possible.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know if you can.
You'll see if Kirsten can.
Let's see if we can, if the Edit Bay can work their magic.
Well, Keith was out on the street doing this live, and I like that. He drew a little bit of a crowd. Of course, his friends come by, but we need people.
Focus in on, no?
Right. Can we focus in on this a little, Kirsten? On the, yeah, there we go.
Okay.
We'll actually get to see what Keith looks like.
Keith is an amazing individual. We presently have Keith Trahan. He's an urban contemporary artist. We have him exhibiting his artwork at Jupiter Hall at 89 Hanover Street, directly across from the Palace Theater. And I encourage everyone to come and visit and meet and interact with Keith. Keith is doing live painting outside of Jupiter Hall basically every day.
In fact, he's going to be out there today, too, isn't he?
He'll be out there today from 4 to 8. And the next one will be Taco de Mayo Day and whatnot. And we're actually going to be bringing in a piano this week for him to start painting, live painting a piano that will be stationary at Jupiter Hall and brought outside when we start doing events outdoors when the block of Hanover gets blocked off for events, so like on Fridays and Saturdays through July and August. Keith was born and raised in Manchester, and he's motivated by street art and large-scale work. He likes to use bright colors, and he likes to make bold statements with striking images. He wants to be your mind, if you will. So I met him at at Art Jam Bridge Fest last year.
Yeah,
and
that was a good show.
Yeah, and I hope he continues that when Art Jam happens again. But we've never lost touch. Keith has some great artwork that he's doing right now, and I encourage. He uses illuminated paint in some of his work, so that when we have blue lights on it, it comes alive and it pops. He's really about building community through images and storytelling with his work. And it's really, through May 17th, I would encourage you to come and visit and have some talking points with him, because I think he really speaks for a lot of the artists in our city, especially when it comes to art as healing and art as motivation. And we're thrilled to have Keith with us.
Oh yeah, we need a whole lot of people like Keith.
Absolutely.
I just met him. In fact, I met him through Dan at Jupiter Hall, and he had all his paintings in there. And then I got to talk to him. He was actually painting outside and doing his thing right there. And this is what I would like to see more of: people with guitars playing, artists with brushes, and just keep it going. We have a world. We live in a world that is so fast, and eventually we kind of mentally get worn out and say, hey, well, it's too much, so we'll let somebody else handle it, because it really does get busy. But there's one thing that you have to realize is that when you live in a city and you've been born in the city, raised in the city, you've lived here, even if you went to school and came back like James Chase. At the Institute, he graduated, then he left, got his master's in, I think, Colorado or somewhere, Denver, and he came back, and it's like...
I think it was Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas or someplace like that.
But Keith, James, if you're listening, we love you.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be on the show in May.
Yeah.
Sometime in May.
He's a person that inspires me a lot, inspires everyone. And we did a mural with him when I was at the Makerspace. Right. You can still see it on the garage.
Yeah, he did a beautiful job.
I want to have him live painting on the street, on Hanover Street as well, with others. And it's in fact coming up in June, the second half of June, NHIA will be having their continuing ed art alumni arts programs that James programs and coordinates at Jupiter Hall.
Right.
So you're going to get a chance to see how James' influence is on students and continuing ed people who can't necessarily afford to go full-time but can become part of the NHIA experience.
Right.
So I'm excited about that, because it's, you know what it is? It's about people helping each other. It's about people working together and really just trying to do our own parts the best way that we can to build up arts in this community.
Get things done. You know,
Absolutely.
it's like James is a big inspiration. I've known James for years. Going to Jupiter Hall, I have met 4 artists that I haven't seen in years. It's almost like Dan opened up the door. And all
portal.
these, right? But it's, you know, Janice Donnelly. I haven't seen her in years. She's a good artist. Kathy Tangney, Jason Bagata, again James, and then I met Keith, and he's full of energy and he's got a lot of ideas. I talked to him less than 5 minutes, and I knew that I wanted him on my show because what he was telling me was the same thing that I believe in and have been pushing for years. And Dan said something very important, which is we need to work together to do this. This is something that everybody, even if you're not really so taken in by art and you're not the kind of person that goes out and buys art, I think when you see people on the street, which I hope will happen. I mean, it's already happening, but I hope that it spreads. In that part of the area, right across from the Palace Theater, Jupiter Hall sits. And if you have artists outside working, you know, draw people in. Maybe your children will get involved in art. I know when I was a kid, what really got me hooked was Walt Disney. And I started sketching when I was young, and then I stopped, and I started again. And now, as an adult, I look back and I say, you know, it was all worth it. Art can be such a positive thing for people. You'd be surprised, people are in the hospital and people painting hand-painted cards for people, what it does for people. I teach at the William Cashin Center, and I'm dealing with people in their 70s and 80s. I may see them for a month, maybe 6 months, and then the next week they passed on. So it's just something that I want to spread, which is art. And now that we have Dan, and now that we have Jupiter Hall and his wife Katie, I mean, you couldn't ask for more
Well, let me add to that.
cordial people.
It's not now that we have. We've always been here.
Just been hiding.
It's us doing what we feel is our part to put our skin in the game
Right.
as local individuals to help. And I can't emphasize that we work best when we work with each other.
Right.
And that includes everyone. This art should never be an insular activity. Art should be a sharing experience. And
Right.
we need to, as a community in Manchester, bring together all diversity and creative people together and make us stand proud.
Right.
So we're doing our part, and we're
Right.
enjoying it, and we look forward to other people adding to that community within our city, in downtown, outside of downtown, within Manchester. And so, again, you know, I'd like to think as Jupiter Hall is a connecting point, a community point for people to come. And so that's why I encourage everyone to please, you know, take a time, come in your own way, enjoy a stroll down Hanover Street on a day. We'll be there, and especially in the next few days with Keith. I actually am probably working with Keith to have him as a resident artist at Jupiter Hall throughout the summer. So, and we believe in that, to be able to give people opportunities to have their work seen. So expect to see that happen on a frequent basis.
Right.
And so, you know, again, so, you know, yes, Jupiter Hall exists. Thank you. We're so proud to be here, but we're within the community that believes in building a stronger city. And
we need to support. Jupiter
Right.
Hall needs
yeah,
support.
Absolutely, we do need support.
It's a call out for people that take an interest in Manchester. I mean, this is where I'm going to obviously pass on. I don't have any, and I'm retired now. This is where I'm
You're
going
not
to
going
be.
to pass on in this show, though.
Oh no. I'm going to at least ask for another 5 or 10 minutes. But the bottom line is for me is that I want to do as much as I can while I'm able to, as far as art is concerned and as far as art in the city of Manchester. It's got such a rich history. It's the largest city in the state. You've got the school systems, you've got the Institute of Art, you've got the Courier. I mean, we've got all the ammunition. And the thing is, we have the soldiers, if you want to call them that, of art. There's a lot of people out there that are looking for something to it. And Jupiter Hall opened the doors to that, and you'll see diverse you'll have 3 or 4 artists in there at the same time, 3 or 4 different types or kinds of artwork, different medium, different personalities. It's just a fantastic place to be.
We want to inspire people to become more expressive and more creative as an answer to. I still believe passionately that and intelligently that arts and culture is probably the biggest answer to most of the issues that we face in this city.
And I agree.
If we can address them together within our dynamic resources that we offer, I and my wife Katie at Jupiter Hall, we want to inspire our young to continue on and consider arts as a career when they grow up, and to find ways for them to stay within our beautiful state and definitely within Manchester as we can. So we'll be providing opportunities along the line. We're working with West High School. We're working with Trinity High School. We're doing something with Memorial. We'll reach out to everyone as we move forward. We're organically growing, and the best thing I can say is offer for you to come and say hello to us and talk and share what your ideas are and see how we can collaborate together. And so, as always, I appreciate having Anthony as a resource, and I'm very appreciative for you bringing me on your show, Anthony. I think
you'll be back. You'll be back.
Next time I'm going to have to interview Anthony.
Yes, he can. I tend to talk a little bit, but I am very, very passionate about the arts. I've seen what it can do. In fact, going back to Cheryl Mitchell again, when we started Litchfield Lane, we were working with children that had no parents. They were living with their grandmother, and their grandmother was like in their 80s, and you got a 15-year-old kid, and her parents were dead, and she was one of the first girls to be involved in the art project. And the next day, or that night, evidently she went home and she talked to all her school friends, because the very next day, instead of her standing there with a paintbrush, we had 3 or 4. I worked with another artist named Jamie Grady, who I haven't seen in a long time, and he fits right in the same category as Jason Bagata, James Chase, Keith. When I met Keith, he had the energy. And I knew right then and there, I said, I got to grab him and have him on my show. And then I met Dan last fall. And
I can't wait to see the two of you working together, and people who share the same beliefs, like Keith, Anthony, James, everyone who wants to move this city forward. I want to add, for anyone that's interested in what we do at Jupiter Hall, we have a Facebook page. It's Jupiter Hall NH. And if you just type that in as our social media, that's essentially our social media, also for Instagram and Twitter and YouTube as well.
Here's a question I have. Are you going to have musicians at your place?
Absolutely. We're doing it already.
Good.
Yes.
And plays, possibly?
Yes. We had a reading of a play last week.
Yeah, Ruth.
With David Priest, the story of Ruth.
Yeah.
We had music at our, we've been having music since we opened in September, but we're about ready to start doing open mic nights.
Good.
But a variety show, if you think of it, pairing spoken word, dance music, short films, laughter, engagement, and we're excited with our space. It's a place that we are going to offer meaningful interactions in arts and culture.
It's such a friendly place, super friendly atmosphere. I'm going to have to wrap it up now, but I'd like to thank Dan for coming on, and Keith, I will have you on in a future show. In the future, I'm going to have Jason Bagata, James Chase, and a few other artists that I haven't seen in a long time that have been a part of the art scene in this city and then just kind of laid off for a while. Either they got married or they went to school or whatever. But we're going to do it, and I want to thank Dan again for coming on, and I'm going to have him on the show again where he can interview me. I can be quiet and let him do the talking.
Can't wait for that.
I want to thank you guys for dropping in. It's another episode of ArtXpression, and don't forget Jupiter Hall. Dan's going to have artists on the outside, and we're going to have a good time. And I thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you either next week or the week after with a brand new show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.